Hello, it's Hazel here. I hope you are doing really well. So I am filming this video because it's been my birthday recently, which is a very nice time to reflect on things that you've learned, experiences you've had, and what it's like to age, I suppose. So these are 5 things that I've learned in my 30s so far. So I'm still in my early mid 30s, so got plenty more to learn in my 30s, I'm sure. But I wanted to do a bit of a mixture of some serious things that I've learned and some more light-hearted things. So let's crack on. And first of all, I want to say, if you're in your 20s, this isn't one of my points, but if you're in your 20s and you're worried about hitting 30, getting into your 30s, don't worry about it. Like, your 20s are, for me, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but for me, my 20s were a really difficult time where I had a lot of anxiety and confusion, and it kind of felt like you're supposed to figure out who you are in your teens and then get on with it once you're like out of uni or in work or whatever it is. But your 20s is really still a time for figuring yourself out, figuring things out, and just becoming more of who you are. If you have anxiety around hitting 30, being in your 30s, just let go of that anxiety, because I love being in my 30s so much more than being in my 20s. It's great. So first of all, my number one thing that I've learned in my 30s is that therapy is for everybody. So through my 20s, I really struggled with anxiety, panic attacks, feeling lost and confused and not understanding my place in the world, not understanding how my past impacted the person I was becoming and have become. And I also thought that I wasn't struggling enough to deserve therapy. I hadn't been through enough things to warrant needing to see a therapist. And it wasn't until the first lockdowns in 2020 that I really started to struggle, because things slowed down so much that my brain didn't have enough distractions, and I was really struggling with a lot of anxiety and feeling lost and confused. And that's when I finally reached out. First of all, I reached out to our local NHS wellbeing service, and I got some free help through cognitive behavioural therapies, which I found incredibly useful, really, really helpful kind of coping strategies and techniques. And then from there, I found a professional therapist, and I paid to go to therapy for 6 months, which is quite a short time. But I think if I'd done it earlier, it would have been very helpful. I wish I had done it earlier, to be honest. But I'd already done a lot of work and self-reflection and figuring things out myself. And then I went to this therapist, and it was a very, very, very intense 6 months of weekly sessions. But it was so worth it. And if you've thought about doing therapy but feel like perhaps you're not ill enough, you're not struggling enough, this is just to say that you absolutely do deserve it. And there are free options as well as paid options, and I'll put some links below. So number 2 is another kind of serious one. It's that I can trust myself. And this is a really big deal, and I will say that this has certainly come from the therapy that I did as well. But I have certainly struggled with a lack of self-confidence, self-belief, and that therefore has meant that I have not trusted in myself. I have not trusted that I have the answers to things. I haven't trusted that I am capable of things. And I've had a lot of knockbacks and struggled with things in the workplace. And it has really been over the last few years that I have really found my own inner strength, doing things like positive affirmations, meditation, taking time to understand that enjoying my free time is really worthwhile, building this foundation of understanding that my existence is important, that I need to look after myself, and just building on that, I've really come to understand that I can trust myself. I can trust myself to make the right decisions for myself. I can trust myself to make the right decisions for my family. I can trust myself to do well at the job that I've been doing for a long time now, and that I can learn to do better and just really believe that if someone asks me to give a presentation, if someone asks me to answer a question, I just need to believe in myself that I have the answer. And if I don't have the answer, I can find the answer. And that has been really eye-opening for me. Just the affirmation, just the belief that I trust myself. So number 3 is not specifically a lesson from my 30s, but something I have very, very much discovered is that learning a new language is difficult. It's really difficult. So I started learning Japanese in January 2020. So it's been over 2 years now. The first year was very, very intensive. I really, well, it really helped me to cope through lockdown, but I really threw myself into it and was all the time, all of my free time outside of work, I was reading Japanese, studying my textbooks, learning vocabulary. And then I kind of lost momentum a little bit as the world started to open up, but I've definitely kept with it. I try to do a little bit of Japanese pretty much every day, even if it's just 5 minutes on Duolingo. But I still cannot, watch a TV show, have a conversation in Japanese. It's so difficult to learn a new language, but I have come so far. So I still, not quite every week, but when myself and my Japanese teacher can fit it in, we will have a 30-minute chat on the phone, which is so helpful and really incredible to see how far I've come, and that we can almost, she'll have to translate certain specific little bits and pieces, but on occasion I've managed to have a 30-minute conversation in Japanese, and that is just so very exciting. And the more that I can kind of pick words out when I'm watching TV shows and kind of understand, grasp the concept, even if it's not every word that I'm reading or hearing, it's so exciting. But boy, it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. But I wanted to do it because I want to travel in Japan and I want to experience life being able to speak a different language. I also want to understand animes and mangas, and I just think it's really good for your brain. They say that, like, as you get older, a really good thing to do to help your brain keep ticking and doing things is Japanese. And I really do think that is the case. It's definitely kind of sparked my brain and got me thinking and got me feeling more creative and inspired, and just, yeah, maybe it's not connected, but I think it's been really good for my brain. So if you've thought about learning a foreign language, I would really highly recommend it, but understand that it's not easy. It takes time, it's difficult, but so much fun. So number 4, these all do kind of fit together. So number 4 is that you are never too old to change. So I understand I am not old, I'm not even middle-aged, I would say. I would still describe myself as young heading to middle age, so, which is fine. You don't have to define yourself as anything, but you can change at any time in your life. And doesn't that feel exciting? Doesn't that feel liberating? I think through my 20s, so much anxiety stemmed from the fact that I was making decisions that were going to impact the rest of my life. I was deciding things. I needed to pick my career because that was going to be what I was doing for the next however many, 40 years or however long. But in the last couple of years, I'm still doing the job that I was doing for a long time, but I'm now also training in a career in sustainability. And that is a pretty big switch from what I was doing before. A lot of the skills that I've learned over the last 10 years or so in the workplace are very relevant to a changing career. So it's not like you wipe the slate clean and start again. But you can change your career at any time. When I graduated from university, there was a lady there who was graduating and she'd just done a criminology degree. And she was 60 and she'd been an accountant all her life, and then decided that in her retirement she wanted to start up this career in criminology. Like, how incredible is that? It's just never too late to change. So that's in terms of career, but in terms of mindset as well, the way that you view the world, I think I've touched on it before in previous Instagram posts or YouTube videos, but there's this idea of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So a fixed mindset means that this is the way that I am, this is the way that I experience the world, and this is how I'll always be. It's like, I am stubborn, therefore I will always be stubborn. Or I'm bad at running, therefore I'll always be bad at running. I can't learn new languages, therefore I'll never learn a new language. And just this fixed mindset, what a depressing way to be. Like, when you think that you could have a growth mindset and think that I'm bad at running, but I'm gonna give running a go and have some fun with it and maybe I'll get better. Or I have found languages really hard to learn in the past, but I'm going to try a different technique. I'm going to try doing it in a more sustainable long-term way. Doing languages at school is probably not a very good reflection of what it's actually like to learn a language as an adult. And whatever it might be, just the belief that you're stuck, the belief that you are who you are, everything you experience is what you experience, therefore that's how it's always going to be, doesn't have to be the case. Isn't that exciting? You can be whatever you want to be. You could completely change the way that you see the world, the life that you're experiencing. You could change where you live. You could change the style of clothes you wear. You can just do whatever you want. Nothing has to be fixed. You don't have to, if you're someone that feels like, oh, I'm really trendy, so I want to wear all the latest fashions that come out. Well, you don't have to be like that. If you suddenly realise that you love cottagecore fashion, you could change it. You can go on Depop and buy some secondhand clothes and have a whole new wardrobe. Like, isn't that exciting? You are never too old to change who you are. I love that. That is very exciting to me. So the fifth thing that I've learned, these aren't the only 5 things I've learned, but these felt like the most significant to me. So the 5th thing that I have learned is that I can make a difference. And this does stem from therapy. It stems from trusting myself. It stems from changing my mindset. So all of these things are really, really relevant. But the fact that I can make a difference is something that I've always wanted to believe, but it's not something that has always felt true. And I think through loss of confidence, I kind of gave up on activism, kind of in my mid-20s for a few years. I gave up on veganism for quite a few years because it felt like what I was doing, what I chose to do, wasn't having a positive impact. It was just difficult for me, but not really doing anything for anyone else, not really making a positive change in the world. But through growing in confidence, growing in self-belief, I've come to realise that putting yourself out there is really scary. Changing things in your life, it can be really scary. But actually, by putting yourself out there, you reach people that you don't even know. And I've put myself out there for a long time and had kind of no feedback. No one said, oh, I saw that, whatever it is, I saw a blog post you wrote. But then suddenly I did start receiving messages that said, oh, you really inspire me. The things that you've done have made me change this. The things that you've done or said have made me see the world in a different way. And isn't that really exciting? But it doesn't just have to be putting yourself out there. I think understanding that just living your life aligned with your values makes a difference in the world. It makes a positive impact internally and externally. So through being vegan, I can say that I have saved this many animals, this many litres of water, this many tonnes of carbon. All those kind of things are really, really important. And it can feel lonely when you're an individual and you're making changes on your own. But we can all connect so much now that it really, you can see the impact that it makes. You can see the positivity. And ever since I was about 14 years old and discovered how dairy milk was made, how cows were treated to make dairy milk, that was kind of the first moment of thinking, I'd really like to make a difference in the world. What can I do to make a difference in the world? And it's now that I've reached my 30s that I've really come to believe wholeheartedly that I can make a difference in the world. It's like before, I hoped I can make a difference, and now I have learned, which has made me believe that I can make a difference in the world. those are 5 things that I've learned so far in my 30s. I would love to know some of the lessons that you've learned if you're in your 30s. I would love to know, if you're not in your 30s, how you feel about reaching your 30s. If you're beyond your 30s, how do you feel about the decade that you're living in now? What have you learned? Have you got any little nuggets of wisdom and excitement that you'd like to share? I would love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please do like it if you've enjoyed it. That really helps. Please do subscribe if you're interested in more videos around sustainability and just my perceptions on the world and me living my life trying to have a fun and ethical and sustainable time. So yeah, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye!